Tuesday, July 16th, 2024. It is 7:01 p.m. And we'll call this Bristol Town Council work session to order. First item on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. Marshall Freed, would you like the allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll do roll call. Start off to my left. Doug Smith.
Here.
Dean Renfro.
Here.
Kathy Burke.
Here.
Greg Tuholsky.
Here.
Jeff Beachy's here. To my right, Town Manager Mike Yoder.
Yes.
Clerk Treasurer Kathy Antonelli.
Here.
In the back, Assistant Fire Chief Jimmy Haynes.
Here.
Legal Counsel Alex Bowman. Here. And for the very first time, Town Marshal Steve Frank.
Here.
Welcome. Okay, everybody had a chance to review the agenda.
Yes.
Any additions, corrections, or changes to the agenda?
Only one thing I'd note, with regards to Marshall Bream, I think it's appropriate for the council to take a formal action to appoint. I don't believe it's been done in a public, I don't think it has been done, and so now we're in a public meeting.
Sure.
I think it's appropriate for, now that there's been the offer, apparently there's been an acceptance.
He's not sure yet.
And he was swore out the other day.
You swore you'd do it.
So I think it would be appropriate for the council to make a motion for the appointment to take it to a vote. And that would be the formal way to do that. So I don't know if that's something that we need to address either under the town attorney section or however, but I do think that would be an item of business that the council should address this evening.
Okay. Okay, we can do that. I'm gonna insert that as 4.1. It'll go before report, if that's okay.
That'd be fine.
Okay. All right,
And I would also like to remove 5A from the agenda.
okay. That one will be stricken. Okay. So the. Strike through, where's my strike through? Right there, okay. So amended. All right, any other changes to the agenda? Okay, if not, we'll get ready for our reports, but first item before we get to that would be the appointment of Town Marshal Steve Preem.
I make a motion, we appoint Steve Preem to Marshall, Town of Bristol.
Okay, been a motion by Dean,
I'll second that motion.
second by Doug. Open for discussion. No further discussion. We'll take a vote. Doug Smith,
Yes.
Dean Renfro,
Yes.
Kathy Burke,
Big yes.
Greg Tuholsky,
Yes.
and Jeff Beachy's yes. Motion carries. It's official now.
Official. So close.
You almost got away.
Now you can't get out of it.
All right, we'll jump into reports then. Mike.
Okay, the whole entire purpose of our meeting tonight is to have Jason present tonight the new, I hope I'm using the right term, unified development ordinance. Well, there's been some changes, so you're going to explain what that is and why we need to approve this ordinance tonight, or we need to approve this ordinance this week. If you choose to do it in one reading tonight, that would please Jason. I have him on the meeting tonight for first reading and Thursday for second reading, so however you want to do that. So we'll just let Jason kind of walk into this. Jeff, in further down below within the package, you should have a copy of the ordinance that we can look at and Jason can talk us through it.
Sure. This one right here?
Yeah.
On that screen right there, it was part of the packet. There's 188 pages there, so you got
Oh,
Yeah, I didn't
I have
download it.
what?
I have
There it
two
is.
pages.
There it is. Yeah, so.
Oh.
First,
That doesn't look like Bristol.
No, looks like the new town.
you got the fruit hills right there.
Well, I got Fort Hills, and there is water right there.
Yeah, and
There you go.
That,
the housing that's coming.
There you go. Okay.
All right, good evening, Town Council. My name is Jason Obel. I'm the zoning administrator and planning manager for Elkhart County. So as you're aware, Elkhart County oversees the planning and zoning and building permits for all 4 towns in the county. And so as part of that responsibility, we like to review our ordinances from time to time. And one of the current trends in community development around the Indiana, around the country, is to really streamline things and to really simplify things. So in the past, Elkhart County, we had a subdivision ordinance, which controlled how land is subdivided. And then we had a zoning ordinance, which really dictates the type of uses that can be applied. And it's interesting because as Elkhart County, we have all kinds of different areas and land uses. We have extremely rural, large farms. We have subdivisions that are out in the county. We have the towns, we have urban areas, urban cores, central business districts. So to have a set of ordinances that control and provide guidelines and for all of those environments is kind of unique. And previously, the subdivision ordinance and the zoning ordinance, there was about 400 pages of rules and regulations. And so again, we had an opportunity to look at those documents, to review them, to see what made sense, to things that don't make sense. And so we combined them, and we combined them into one document. The buzzword in the planning community, those are referred to as unified development ordinances. And but we decided to name this thing the Elkhart Development Ordinance. And in doing so, the 400 pages of 2 ordinances is now 183 pages of 1 ordinance. So it's very user friendly. It's on our website, but you can go to the various zoning districts that we have and look at what types of uses are allowed in that district and all the development standards that coincide with that use, all in one section. So it's very user friendly. And like I said, we removed a lot of things that didn't make sense anymore. One of the things we removed was there was a requirement that your depth to width ratio of your parcel had to be less than 7 to 1. So that the problem with that is here, especially as people are selling off pieces of farmland to maximize the land use, to have a 3 or 5 acre little farmstead, and then the rest agricultural production. To maximize that, that's why we had to have that, but it doesn't make sense to do that anymore. And so we got rid of that requirement. We allow chickens by right now. If you have less than half an acre, you're allowed to have 6 chickens. If you have up to an acre, you can have like 12 chickens. So we looked at our petitions at our Board of Zoning Appeals and the things that the board just constantly, continually approved. It didn't make sense to keep regulating those. So again, we got rid of a lot of things, streamlined things. And one of the really exciting parts of this new document is we inserted in the new ordinance here, there's a section for each town. And in that section, the town, at your leisure, you can provide your own development standards. You can go above and beyond what the county already requires. And so basically how that works is that each of the towns, and I'm going to get into planner speak here, sorry. But each of the towns is basically an overlay district. And inside that overlay district, that's where you can establish higher standards or less standards than what the county has. And that makes sense, again, with your central business district, your industrial parks. If there's things that you want to go above and beyond what Elkhart County has, you have the discretion to do that. And so again, and that's for all 4 towns. And so that's one of the other big benefits. I know that signage is a big issue in a lot of communities, a lot of towns. And again, the town can say, these are the type of signs that are acceptable. These are the type of signs that are not acceptable. And so I'd be happy to answer any questions. And so part of that process is we went through this new development ordinance with our plan commission. The plan commission recommended approval to our county commissioners. The county commissioners approved the ordinance. And the county commissioner thought it would be best that to get input from the town and to get basically the towns to sign off to say, yes, this is something we like, this is something we accept. So the ordinance that you have before you basically just affirms that, yes, the town is under the county's ordinance, and yes, the town has a right to add any development standards as they see fit. And it's just one of those things that the commissioners thought of value to bring to the towns for the town to get a final approval for.
Okay, so is that section four that we're looking at right here, the overlay
Yes,
districts?
yes,
Okay. And that carries up to,
the town character,
yeah,
if you
oh,
scroll down a little bit. So it's that TC Town Character Preservation Overlay. Down, nope, go back up.
For,
You're-
for day 15.
418, yeah, click on that.
okay.
Click on that in the hot link.
Oh, okay.
And so, and again, we try to use a lot of local pictures and things. So again, this is where any development standards that you wanted to go above and beyond what the county has.
Okay.
You would implement.
So this is specific to Bristol then?
Well,
It will be.
it will be,
Okay,
but again, it's for all four towns. So
okay,
when Wakarusa decides what they want to do, they would have a Wakarusa section, Millersburg, Middlebury, and Bristol.
okay,
So
Nice.
so the sections for the towns actually would be the differences between what we would like and what you guys have set. Is that correct, or?
Not necessarily the differences, it would be what the town council, what the town wants to see. For example, I know that one of the issues in Bristol is that billboards are not acceptable. So the town could say the maximum size of a sign is 64 square feet.
Right.
And so that would be in there, and so that would control the guidance of signage.
It would override the county.
It's not necessarily.
Called an override.
It's what the town wants.
Okay.
And so that's why, because currently, because the town is under the county's ordinance, we have to enforce the county's
Right.
rules. So this way gives the town a chance to establish their own rules
Right.
in which the county can then enforce.
So does your part of it include like fencing? And I mean, I know there's a lot of things that the county always did that we never addressed, like
Yeah,
fences and that type of thing.
we don't really get into the weeds of a lot of things. We really try to, well, first of all, we're not the city of Goshen, we're not the city of
Right.
Elm.
Why don't we go to one of the residential zones and you can explain
Sure.
what it looks like and what the development standards are?
Sure, so we go back to like the R1 zoning district. This standard districts, click on 3.6. So this is the R1 single family district. And so within that, it describes the purpose of that district is for smaller lot, single family residential use. And then there's also associated uses like daycares and
Right.
little small businesses and that kind of thing.
Scroll down a little bit, there's some really neat charts.
And then we talk about like setbacks. Setbacks are very important. Like how far away do you need to be? Those are the type of uses that are acceptable either by right or by special use.
Okay.
But with establishing setbacks, for example, if it's a named street, you have your house has to be 50 feet from the center line of the right of way. Has to be 10 feet from a side property line, has to be 15 feet from a rear property line. The minimum size of the parcel has to be 15,000 square feet. So this establishes, those type of parameters for that district. And again, this the whole purpose is for orderly development. And really at the 50,000 foot level, planning was established to really protect the public health, safety, and welfare. And the governments that be that either a county, township, town, city, using those police powers for these development standards. I see it, a lot of people say, well, it's government regulation, it has a tendency to be over-regulation. But the fact of the matter is that what zoning does is it really establishes and protects your tax base, right? It protects people's use and commonality. There's an expectation when you move into a residential area that your house is going to meet these standards. And if it was just willy-nilly, then what effect would that have on your property value, and ergo, what effect would that have on your tax base? So it just makes sense to put similar uses in similar areas.
Are there any other standards that are further down?
So there's buffering standards that we have. If again, we try to, if you have a commercial area near a residential area, what is the expectation of that commercial property to try to mitigate any negative effects that would have on an adjoining residential area? And again, the development pattern in Elkhart County it is very unique because we have RV factory next to $500,000 home subdivision, next to an RV factory, next to $500,000 home. I mean, it's kind of, it really didn't establish your traditional, all the housing goes here and all the commercial goes there. It's kind of hodgepodge. But again, at least it gives some standards within that district to try to help protect and maintain that district.
Go to M1 because we'll be looking at, or they will be looking at a M1 rezoning, and then you can see what kind of buffer. There's three different vectors, one, class 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, there's three types of buffering. There's a class 1, class 2, and class 3, and they have different widths and different requirements in terms of what kind of, and there's some discretion if you put a berm, if you put a fence, if you put a wall. There's all kinds of different things that we try to be as flexible as we can. And again, a lot of those decisions are market driven too. We try to really do not too much overreach. And that's one of the reasons why I like working for Elkhart County, is because we do kind of, let neighbors try to figure stuff out.
It's further down the page, I think. There's three different classes. Oh, you're in M2. I thought there was a chart.
Yeah.
Only 506.
Go back to the main index. One of the other things too is,
Buffering and screening.
yeah, buffering and screening. Yeah,
And so I clicked on that, it took me here.
that's weird.
Oh, right there, buffering and screening. Okay.
Yeah, click on that guy. Yep. So, keep scrolling down, and it should give you some pictures here. No, so again, that's kind of a representation of what that buffering would look. Certain number of trees per 100 linear feet, certain number of bushes. And then of course, if you wanted to put a wall or a berm or a fence, you can, there's lots of opportunity for you to develop your property, your whatever project. It may make sense to have a wall, it may not make sense to have a wall. So we're pretty proud of this. It took about a year. Staff, we did a lot. This was an internal project. We did use Avamarch to kind of help with our public interface and public meetings. And they did a lot of the formatting for us, but staff actually went through and again, sentence by sentence, line by line, looked and evaluated, does this make sense? Does this not make sense? And so I think it's a really good product. And again, every year this thing will be evaluated and we find a hiccup. And again, that's the opportunities for the towns to add the standards that they would like to see.
Yeah.
Your downtown district, if you want to encourage more restaurants and more businesses, there's things that you can do in your section that would help that. You could, with off-street parking or on-street parking, those type of things. The zero setbacks to the road in your central business district makes sense. You shouldn't have to be 10 feet because it doesn't make sense because
Right.
when the downtown was developed, that's how it was.
Yeah.
I think it's a great tool.
Yeah, it's very well done.
Jason, can you describe how the overlay district is established?
Yeah, so when the town decides to give us some standards, what we'll do is it's treated as a rezoning. And so those ordinances, whatever the town has, it'll go to our plan commission. And then it'll go to our county commissioners, and then it'll go to the town for final approval. Kind of like this, what we're doing here with the actual acceptance of this new development ordinance.
Okay.
So again, we like the public interface. We want to get public comment.
Yeah.
That's the whole purpose of what we do. I mean, that's kind of our bread and butter, is to let people know what's happening, how it's happening, and again, try to answer questions before it becomes problems, to really mitigate any negative problems before they happen.
Jason, going back to the overlay, is that envisioned as the town? Imagine the overlay would be the municipal boundary of the town. I think
Correct.
what would be identified there. Then are those development standards that the town, or there are specific development standards that the town wishes to include? Would it be done at the same time as establishing the overlay, or does the overlay, once the overlay is established, then the town has kind of a carte blanche to go?
Those standards are part of the overlay.
Okay.
So, and those may change too.
So I've asked for a quote from Evan Marsh and JPR to help us develop those overlay standards.
Okay.
And once we have those developed, then we'll.
Now, to that point, though, once that's, the overlay is a great tool to do that, and once those development standards are established, for the town to amend them, it would go through the same zoning process of rezoning, or
That's correct.
petition process.
That's correct.
Okay.
Same public hearing. Right.
Yep, right. So it wouldn't be a matter, if there were to be a change to the development standard, let's say the, zero setback in the CBD, that'd be a decision that starts here, would be adopted here, and then would be brought to petition before
That is correct.
BZA
That is correct.
for the
Let's-
APC.
Let's say that we decided to put chicken standards in our overlay. That's a type of use or control. Does that mean we can pull our chicken ordinance out of our ordinances and just rely on the county?
See, I don't know about the town specific ordinances, but currently, the chicken ordinances is based on the district, and the districts that are in the towns.
Okay. You don't want to deal with chickens. I can see.
Well, I don't think it'd be a good idea to just follow the counties either. I mean.
No, but I'm trying to figure out, so we have this issue of a variance, we can't issue a variance to our ordinance to allow for additional chickens.
Right.
But if it was part of an overlay, just saying, would that become a BZA issue then for variance or not? For an overlay?
I believe it would be. For example, Bristol said you can have 6 chickens by right.
Yep.
And so if someone in the town of Bristol comes and says, no, I want 24 chickens. Well, the town says 6, the county says 0,
Mhm.
we're gonna go to the BZA and, and then, but it's up to the BZA is gonna ask for input from the town, right? So the BZA is gonna want a letter from the town saying, is this acceptable or not?
So even with those standards in place, you're going to come to us
Mhm.
and ask our
Yes,
opinion
yes.
and approval.
Now, unfortunately, how the BZA works, I've been with the county 10 years and I've only seen 2 situations where the town wanted to do something and the board decided otherwise. And both of those were gravel pits. And,
Mhm.
but that's a whole nother issue because Indiana state law really guides and protects those. So resource extraction term. But yes, anything that would go above the town standard would go to our BZA. Until the town decides to establish their own plan commission and BZA. And then you guys would be in charge of your own document, your own ordinances, and
We've got that planned for the second Tuesday of next week.
Sorry, I'm busy.
Overlay created with the standard. Would the county enforce that?
yes,
Town enforce that?
yes, no, that's part of our
Who
ordinance,
would enforce those?
that we would enforce them on the town behalf.
So moving the billboard one for this makes a lot of sense. I'm not sure the chicken one does, because we have other requirements on housing and it becomes a nuisance issue, which a local code enforcement person act on immediately.
Yeah, makes more sense to do building and construction type
Type stuff. Yeah.
type items as opposed to
The larger.
pets and critters and
What could the
lawns
chickens,
and, yeah.
if it isn't over half an acre lot, a lot more, can they go get a permit from the county? And then how do you fight that
That's kind
without being in this? I mean, there's two different ordinances then, because we're signing on saying we're accepting these ordinances, which includes chickens.
well, I think we have chickens in our town now because
Yeah.
the county permitted it. We didn't, and it's kind of a no man's land. Person's land.
Don't we have a chicken?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be?
Yeah.
We do,
Well, we do, so it go by
We're
our.
superseding.
Right, and the county issue a chicken permit because it's part of what we're agreeing to. If chicken permits are allowed here, regulated here, can they go to the county for a permit?
I would think it would have to go through the town ordinance. I mean, the town, if it's a town ordinance, the permit would have to come through the town, not the county.
I think the chicken thing is, from the county perspective, is an ag use. Where from the
Yeah.
town ordinance, it's a critter.
Something.
It's not, it's
Agricultural.
right, it's like a vicious dog. It's not a land use thing where we look at it from a land use perspective versus a critter
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah.
It's a weird area because it's sort of a land use issue and sort of a critter animal. I love animals type of thing.
Yeah, it's,
But, you can't have 6 hogs, no matter how friendly you are towards them.
well, but if you have a little potbelly pig,
Wait, but you can have one pot down.
it's, yeah, we, again, so in the county, you need 3 acres to have an ag.
Right.
And if you don't have 3 acres in any one zone, you have to get a special use.
That's not controlled by any of that.
No.
The federal.
No.
And I would also say one of the other big misconceptions out in the county, because everyone who lives in the county thinks they can do whatever they want. And in the city of Goshen, you can have chickens by right. In the city of Elkhart, you can have chickens by right. And in the county, up until this new development ordinance, you had to have 3 acres.
Mhm.
And so, again, government overreach, you can't tell me I can't have my chickens out in the county, fine. But the big misconception is there are a lot of homeowners associations out there that have restrictions and covenants.
Yeah.
We do not enforce those. Those are private matters. And so people get really, really upset when they find out that we won't,
So,
that they have to sue or their homeowners association has to sue to stop it. And time again, our BZA doesn't care either. They will approve a special use for chickens and the standard is 12 chickens, no roosters. So it is, I guess, gender discrimination, but.
It is.
But.
and that's another issue.
And part of that is, obviously with the industry, you have people working all shifts. And so is it really fair for someone to come home, working all night, and they're hanging out, trying to sleep, trying to rest, enjoy their property, and you have this rooster going crazy because he's trying to impress the neighborhood? So and they can be pretty noisy, we have code enforcement too, but our rules of code enforcement aren't criminal, they're civil. And also, we only do our investigations from the right of way. We do not go onto people's property. So there are a lot of times I've gone out to the county and I can hear the rooster, but I can't see the rooster. And the judge will say, Mr. Otto, did you see the rooster? And I'll say, Judge, I heard the rooster, and that's not good enough for Elkhart County judges. So just saying, we do prosecute these. We have the ability to issue tickets, and we have at any given time 24 court cases. On
Chickens.
Chickens is one of the big ones. Chickens is one of the
I
big.
know a house in Elkhart that they, believe it or not, They kept their chickens in their basement.
Does not surprise me.
And I know the city of Elkhart took care of that.
One of the judges actually called me the chicken wrangler, which he's a judge, so I'll let him do it.
Could have been worse.
Right?
Okay.
So again, any questions? Again, I think this is a really good product. I think the citizens, the user friendliness of it, I think it's gonna do a really good job. And again, we're gonna continue to look for efficiencies. We're gonna continue to get rid of regulations that don't make sense, continue to streamline things, and maybe one day, maybe we'll have like a 20-page ordinance.
But even if we approve something here, we wanted, it would be up to the commissioners to okay it.
So if you had your own development standard, because it would be a change to this ordinance, which the county commissioners basically oversee. So yes, but I've been given no indication that the commissioners would not support anything that the town wanted to do. And that's why we're here now. It's because the commissioner wanted the town's buy-in and final approval of this. So, I mean, my marching orders have always been the home rule. The town should be able to do what they want. And so that's one of the reasons why we put this overlay for the towns in this ordinance, is to give the discretion to the towns. So,
But you can go less or more than the county's regulations, correct? 'Cause a lot of places, like state stuff,
generally,
you can be more than the state, but you can't be less.
it's more restrictive.
Mhm.
Dean, let me ask that question perhaps another way. When we talk about, because one of the issues that come up when we talk about signs, we talk about chickens, we talk about some of these things where there's a county standard, and there's a town standard, and there's a conflict that arises there. Under this unified development ordinance, correct me if I'm wrong here, but there wouldn't be a conflict between the county ordinance, what the town wants to do, because if the town adopts standards or promulgates standards as part of the overlay district, that then becomes a part of the ordinance.
That is correct.
So it doesn't create a conflict.
That is absolutely 100% correct.
Okay, so that's where, when we talk about things being less restrictive or more restrictive, the town is free to promulgate that standard, but it would be subject to adoption by the BZA and then.
Well, the plan commission.
Right.
The plan, how that works is staff gives a recommendation and the plan commission gives an official recommendation to the county commissioners. Now, when there's a rezoning in the town, how that works, again, our plan commission serves as the perfunctory plan commission for you. So staff makes a recommendation to the plan commission and the plan commission makes an official recommendation to the town council. And then you act on those final rezonings.
Under the Unified Development Ordinance, what matters are retained by the town exclusively, if any?
So currently, we just, under the envelope of development standards. So that could really be, if you wanted to say all new manufacturing have to have purple fences, you could do that. Wouldn't be wise, but you could do that.
I know about 12 years ago, 12 or 14, whatever years ago, we had an industrial ordinance, which allowed for, masking trash from the road, how many feet back from the road. It was what we call the commercial ordinance, building ordinance. And then about 2 years after that, it was killed. But that's what I keep thinking of that is something with more industry going in and more of that, we need to have some guidelines as far as industry. And that's why this is important, so I can see what you guys have compared to what we have. That was a wonderful ordinance. We got rid of.
And then the other thing I should also mention is, as again, the county oversees the planning and zoning for the town, but we also oversee the floodplain management.
Mhm.
And you probably received a letter from DNR wanting to know if your floodplain regulations were up to date and current. Well, in this development ordinance, the floodplain, the model state floodplain ordinance is in this document. So by you approving and signing this acceptance of this development ordinance, you've met the DNR's requirement for the town to have an official floodplain ordinance.
You didn't get the letter, I got the letter. I sent it to him, he argued with the other, besides the development standard, the other thing I think we'll spend some time on is permitted uses within zone. We may want to be more restrictive than the county.
Yeah, and we are very broad by design. Like retail, we just call it retail. We don't care if you're selling widgets,
Or we,
flowers,
Food.
anything. Retail is retail. We don't break it down into different categories. Because it doesn't make sense for us to do that. The other thing that we are really hands off in, and I know this is a potential hot button issue in a lot of small towns, is Airbnbs. The county is not interested in regulating them. We don't control them. We don't have a list of them. It's just a residential use to us.
Right.
And so, again, it's something that the commissioners are not interested in us getting in that game of trying to regulate what you're doing with your property. So, believe it or not, we still kind of champion property rights, and you should be able to develop your property to the highest and best use you can. And so, but you've got to have some kind of guardrails on that, right? And this is what this document does.
Okay.
Speaking of that, you guys regulate rental properties like apartments?
We do not.
Okay.
We do not, and nor businesses. We don't have a list of business licenses. Elkhart County doesn't issue business licenses.
Okay.
So, and the other thing we don't regulate is like firearm sales. And I have probably weekly conversations with the ATF, and it blows them away figuratively, that we don't regulate those. Like, they're like, well, why don't you regulate this? And it's like, well, because one, Second Amendment's pretty clear, like, but two, it doesn't do anybody. And this is, and I've got support from the elected officials, but in order to have a home occupation or a home workshop business, you have to have a public hearing. Well, that means everybody knows that you have guns at your house, that everybody knows you sell guns. And so to me, that just doesn't make a lot of sense. But in that regard, the final transaction has to happen in person because you have to have ID, you have to fill out an application, they have to verify it, they have to do the background check. So again, I do zoning affidavits all the time. And the ATF, every time they get an application, Tom Armstrong calls me and says, Jason, we have another one. Is it okay? And I'm like, yeah, it's okay because we don't regulate that. We're not into it. That's not what we do. And they're like, every other community does. And I said, well, we're not every other community.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
This has been adopted by the commissioners?
Yes.
This is effective?
The new development ordinance has been, it was effective June 1st. And it's when that went into effect.
Have the other 3 towns adopted this comparable ordinance?
So yes. Millersburg was the first, Middlebury, Wakarusa, and you guys are the last.
so it's tonight and final on Thursday or all at once tonight.
It doesn't really matter to me either way.
Obviously signed out.
I was hoping to get this to the county commissioners to sign next Monday.
Right.
So if it happens today or it happens Thursday,
I'll get it to them.
it doesn't really.
Okay, so from a protocol standpoint, it would be to waive second reading and pass on first,
Yeah, it would be to,
just from the rules.
yeah, I mean, that's the nomenclature that we've used. We've said it both ways. There's a we've got a statute and an ordinance that are both on point, but essentially, the council can move to, waive the second reading and adopt on first. That's probably the best way to say it. I should write that down so that we
Let's
say
rewrite
that.
that.
That sounds good.
But it has
You
to
got
be,
that?
it has to be unanimous, right?
Correct. Yeah, that has to be unanimous, and then the subsequent motion to adopt on first reading, or probably, again, the better language is probably enact on first reading, needs to be a 2/3 majority.
That would be to. Say that again, waive second, and
Waive the second reading and adopt on
I'm
first.
gonna print that out on a little 4x6 card.
waive second reading, adopt on first.
Or that's what do they call this?
Well, we'd have to do the
Yeah, but what do they,
This is ordinance number,
7/2024-15.
I second that motion. Just wanted to know I was on the right one.
I don't think you made a motion.
I bet you did, just did.
No, I'm just asking
Oh,
the verbiage.
motion to waive the second reading and adopt on first.
Okay, so I'll make a motion. We waive to second reading and adopt on first. Ordinance number 7-18-2024-15.
I second that motion.
Okay, motion by Jeff, second by Kathy, open for discussion. No further discussion, we'll take a vote. Doug Smith,
Yes.
Dean Renfro,
Yes.
Kathy Burke,
Yes,
Greg Dolsky.
Yes.
And Rich, yes. Motion carries.
I make a
And
motion,
then-
we adopt,
Enact.
and then ordinance number 7/18/2024-15.
Okay, motion by Kathy,
Second that.
second by Dean, open for discussion. Further discussion, we'll take a vote. Doug Smith,
Yes.
Dean Renfro,
Yes.
Kathy Burke,
Yes,
Greg Dolsky.
Yes.
And Jeff Beechey is a yes. Motion carries.
and
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And we'll get you signed copies before you leave.
Jason, do you need 2 or 3?
I have 4.
That one, that's mine. Doug, keep that one for me, please.
The county will bring
I-
it back.
There's a certification from the county commissioners at the bottom of that ordinance.
Oh, I see that.
So
So you'll send me a
I
file.
will bring you
Perfect.
an original.
Doug, can you write the ordinance number on these as they come down?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's not above your name.
I will say though, and I've instilled in my staff, we really have the view that we're partners with landowners, developers, business owners. It really bugs me, and when I was in planning school, there were a lot of obstructionist type of planners, or the mindset to be obstructionist. And when we engage with, again, a property owner, a business owner, a developer, we really try to look at their end goal and then give them the cleanest, clearest path to that goal. We never look at a development and say, no. It's always, what do you want to do and how can we get you there? And so that's kind of the thing. And I would say that kind of, that's been the culture with our county ever since I've been here. That's something that I had, as a planner in my earlier in my career. But when I came to Elkhart County, that was just kind of instilled that, you really need to help people get to their end goal. Now, it's gonna take some time, or it's gonna take money, or sometimes it's gonna take both. But our end goal is to get that person to their end result. And I take a lot of pride in that, and our staff does too. And I think a lot of people kind of don't really see all the nuts and bolts, because when you're Joe public property owner coming to us and I want to build this shed on my property, you don't do this stuff every day. So we have all these rules and all these things, and you're like, I just want a shed to put my stuff in. And like, I have to be this X number of feet, and oh, my septic's over there, and my well's over here, and oh, there's an easement, I can't put it here. I mean, you know, and again, I keep telling my staff, again, we do this every day. These guys don't. These guys don't. Keep that in the back of your head that, you know, this is what we do every day, and everybody doesn't do this every day. So we really try to focus on customer service.
And I can affirm as well that that's exactly what happens. I have developers call me and they're trying to figure a way around the system. I said, and they're not familiar with Elkhart counties, but just call, talk to one of the planners, tell them what you want to have done, and they'll tell you how to get it done. Just quick, the shortcut stuff. And same thing with homeowners. They're afraid, so, oh, do I need a permit or do I not? Just call. and ask.
Okay, which office do they call?
County planning.
County planning, darn it, I told somebody the wrong one.
Just
this
talk to the
morning.
planner.
Zoning, well,
They'll
builder,
direct them to
Same thing,
okay.
planning and zoning, same
Yeah,
thing.
Same thing.
And
Yep. And our team, we, you know, and people do planner shop, and we know who the bad actors are, we know who the people we can trust, we know the people we can't trust. We know people, if you don't get the right answer from someone, you call someone else. We know those games, and we just, again, we're not,
in our office.
right? We're not trying to, we're just trying to get you to what you want to do is kind of our end goal.
Some people have figured out that Kathy says no, Jill says no, but Mike will say yes.
Or Mike says no, and they say yes.
Well, sometimes it, you know, it behooves to have a, no offense, Marshall, good cop, bad cop, you know? And again, we have an open door policy. If you have any questions or concerns, you know, please call us, call our staff. Again, you have a citizen has an issue, you know, send them our way. We'll try to, again, direct them to how they want to be and how to get there. So,
Let's come to the meeting on Thursday.
what?
Let's come to our meeting on Thursday.
Yeah,
Well,
that's when the fan might.
Over annexation level.
Yeah.
Not even over land use, but they
Right.
can separate too.
Right,
yeah, this has been pretty laid back. I was at a Middlebury council meeting and literally all hell broke loose. It was over a big apartment development complex.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought I was in an episode of Parks and Rec. It was surreal. A person had a heart attack in the middle of the meeting.
jeez.
And their fire department's right across the street, so first responders were there literally in a minute.
Yeah.
They're working on him, you know, they got him back. They have the gurney, they're moving the gurney, they never did like put the meeting at rest or hold. There was a group in the corner doing a prayer circle, which they probably should have. But again, people are just, so as we're wheeling this guy out, he demands to stop at the podium and had the paramedics lift him up so he could give testimony against this
Oh my
apartment.
gosh. The guy that had a heart attack?
Yes.
Oh,
And after
boy,
he
talk
got
about
done,
different.
with his remonstration comments, it hit him again because he had a defibrillator.
Yeah.
Oh.
And you could hear it, zzz, and out he went. And I'm looking at myself going, what is going on? And so they decided to not approve that development. And so again, I'm just the goalie. I'm just trying to keep things within bounds. I had 4 people come up to me, tell me that they were gonna take my job and I was gonna get fired. It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. And I actually took my name badge off and gave it to one guy. I said, if you want my job, you can have it. There you go. And I explained to one guy, I said, do you not realize that I too am a property owner and a citizen and a voter, and so I don't know why you're being so nasty.
Yeah.
But I've been a planner, professional planner going on 30 years now. I've seen all kinds of things, so I'm glad Bristol is pretty reserved.
We're pretty easy going, Jason. you
Except
know
for the
that.
fire territory in there, so.
All right, again, thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks, Jason.
Nice job on that.
Yeah, nice.
So keep my
Very well
copy,
laid
please.
out.
There we go.
All right.
and I'll get that to you next Monday.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Okay, what else do you have, Mike, anything?
That's it.
Questions about upcoming council meeting agenda items, nothing there.
For Thursday.
There's,
Other comments or questions?
Should we adjourn? Is that what
Uh,
you're looking for?
Yeah. Is there a motion to adjourn?
We just did it.
Motion by Kathy,
A second.
second by Greg, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.